Courtney. It's so good to be chatting with you. This is Courtney Buechert, everyone, the CEO of 11. And 11 was the only advertising agency to sponsor 3% in year one in our inaugural year. And the first thing I want to ask you, Courtney, is what made you say yes?
In a word, you did, or you. Though my partners and I agreed with the mission to the conference and recognized that the issues that were provoking it were real and present. You asked if we ran our agency any differently than our peers, and the painful answer was no. I mean, you actually asked me three pretty hard questions, and the answer to each one was no. Do you run your agency any differently? No. Are the women who are critical to your agency embraced and paid as leaders? No. And is this the agency world you want your daughter to work in? No. So honestly, we kind of had no choice but to do the work that was necessary to bring our agency into alignment with our beliefs.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think what I really respect about you is that you've been very honest over those years since this last decade about the struggles of actually getting it right. And I think it's so important for leaders like yourself to normalize that for other leaders, that this isn't a quick fix, that true culture shifts take a long time. It's messy, and you often feel like you're not doing it correctly. So what would you say to any CEOs listening to this as a way to encourage them to stay the course on this crusade?
Well, if I could save anyone 9 years of journey, the single biggest lesson we learned is that there's really no incremental steps or half measures that will make your agency truly diverse and unlock the plurality of talent that you need to thrive. As long as there's some level of the agency that's closed to women or people of color, either by incumbency or intent, and as long as we source and hire talent from the same places we have for the last 50 years, the agency's not really going to change. You kind of have to tear it all the way down to the studs, which means unlocking ownership, unlocking the highest levels of leadership, and recruiting beyond your historical networks. I mean, we did all the logical things that you do, and I don't know that they were inherently wrong, but at every juncture where we made a change, we monitored ratios, we elevated leaders, we ensured pay equality. Every time we made one change, it opened the door to a whole bunch of other things that weren't right. And so we did it incrementally, and we found ourselves at that point where you really have to restructure the fundamental principles of your agency in order to make it behave differently. And we have been rewarded for it. By the time we had made some of these ownership changes and the like, we went on a run as an agency where we grew by 40%. We won our first Lions, our first Effies. We hit the industry radar.
Yeah, that's the last piece of our tagline, the profitability piece. Diversity equals creativity equals profitability. And you're living proof of that. So, okay, my final question. So you and I had a chat this past year where I started to describe to you something else that was kind of tugging at my imagination about a new role that needed to exist to get creative leaders kind of ready for the future that I didn't see anyone else talking about. And I called it the creative entrepreneur in residence. And just like you did 10 years ago, you said yes, tell me more about that. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about what intrigued you about that and how you've asked me to kind of bring that thinking inside 11?
Well, the parallel to 10 years ago is pretty pure. I mean, at that cocktail party where we were standing over to the side of everyone else, you dropped that statistic on me that 80% of purchase decisions are made or directly influenced by women, but only 3% of creative directors at agencies were female. And the absurdity of that reality meant that there was no way we could be creating the most compelling marketing ideas available. So 10 years on, with some progress and change in the gender ratio of creative directors and the diversity of creative directors, it almost brings us back to that fundamental question. And I think that what I heard in your thesis was, now that the people have started to change, how have agencies positioned themselves to unlock that talent, to embrace embrace new thinking and whether or not we're allowing people to bring their whole selves and all of their talent to the problem that we started trying to affect 10 years ago. So your notion of now that an agency is on a journey may be different. Maybe it's time to take a look and make sure that the culture and the processes are allowing those people to thrive. And I, just like I didn't 10 years ago, I don't have a confident answer for that. And so having the opportunity to have a creative entrepreneur in residence, and selfishly you, come help us examine that seemed like a no-brainer for me.
That's so beautiful. Well, thank you for those two yeses. They both were very important to me personally at realizing a vision I had. And I really admire you for being someone that's first in the pool. I know that can be scary, but I think you're living proof that there's great reward on the other side of taking those risks with people you trust.
Well, I thank you, but I can tell you that you have been uncomfortably provocative at each step of the journey. That both personally in my career and the success of my agency have been transformed by that. And so there's, like many things, you can do it for the right reasons, or you can do it for selfish reasons, or you can do it for both. And I've been the beneficiary of both. So thank you.